Welcome to the Power in Excellence podcast.
You're listening to the interview, part of the Power in Excellence podcast series with Dr. John.
Hello and welcome. This is indeed the Power in Excellence podcast, and welcome to the interview. Today's conversation goes right to the heart of power, not the loud theatrical kind, but the restrained, disciplined kind that holds a democracy together. My guest today is the Honourable David Agius MP, Deputy Speaker of Parliament in Malta, a role that sits at the very heart of parliamentary authority. Because here's the fascinating tension. How do you hold power while appearing not to wield it? How do you preside over heated political battles and remain genuinely neutral? And what does power actually look like inside Parliament? Is it dominance, persuasion, restraint, procedure? In this episode, I wanted to go beyond titles and ceremony. I wanted to explore the psychology of institutional power, how it's managed, how it's perceived, and how it's exercised without becoming personal. So I began with a most deceptively simple question. What exactly does the Deputy Speaker do?
Well, when we were in government as a nationalist party, we decided to have the Deputy Speaker chosen from the opposition as a sign of balance within the parliament itself. Obviously, the speaker is chosen by the majority, which is government. So we said at that time, little I knew that I would be in that position some years later, let's choose a deputy speaker from the opposition. And it worked. So all through the years, through the last 15 years, we had the deputy speaker coming from the opposition. I was chosen as a deputy speaker for the House. One thing which is important about this is that you are elected. You have to be voted in. And it's the vote from the government and the opposition together. So that's a plus. And that's something which I really appreciate and which I really work hard not to lose. Because that is respect, this is confidence given to you by both sides of the House. And once you are, as a deputy speaker, that is something which few people have as a vote of confidence from both sides of the House. As a deputy speaker, you support the Speaker of the House, most naturally, in all the work that needs to be done in Parliament. When the Speaker is not there, or when the Speaker needs to leave the chair, or whenever he's abroad, or whenever he's sick, the Deputy Speaker fills in. But the role of the Deputy Speaker, which the Speaker cannot perform, is during votes for budget. When the budget goes to committee stage, it's the Deputy Speaker that has to chair. That's according to our rules of the House. Then I can chair committees and also be part of committees myself. But the chamber can run normally, like if there's the Speaker in the House, when there's a Deputy Speaker. I also have a deputy myself, so that if, for any instance, the Speaker is abroad or I am sick, the Parliament still can meet, and that is like the deputy of the Deputy Speaker.
When you're chairing debates in Parliament, and obviously some of them get very heated, some of them, everyone joins politics because they're passionate and they want to see improvements. When you see people under pressure, what has surprised you most about human behavior and how people react?
Interesting that people act differently from one another. I can say that I've seen people showing great responsibility when they are under pressure and actually taking up the situation strongly in their hands and be passionate about it. Whereas others, I can say that they could not take the pressure. And they just stopped, and you can see them like crumble down. It's interesting because when people speak to you in private or when you're with no cameras, then when you see the same person debating in Parliament and being confronted with not every person, but in particular instances, there's a change, there's a difference. There's also a difference between debating or exchanging views with certain members of Parliament together or others. For example, when you have the leader of the opposition and the prime minister, the situation is too tense. You can feel it, really. When two members of parliament get into a little bit of confrontation, yeah, it will pass. But my most difficult situation in parliament was when I had the leader of the opposition and the prime minister really going head to head. And I was chair because the speaker was abroad. And it was a very difficult situation in parliament. But I managed to stay calm and listen to what the leader of the opposition had to say, which is my leader of the party. I had to listen to what the prime minister had to say because there are lots of point of orders. But I think that then I took a ruling about the situation as well. And after the session, the leader of the opposition came to me and told me, good job today. Few seconds after, the prime minister passed from the other side and told me, good job today. And that for me was the best moment of my life as a speaker, because even in a situation when you have two strong characters in front of television, behind them they're members of parliament, and they have a deputy speaker who is not from his party, who is in his party, but taking the decisions with both of them agreed to, I think that shows that we can work things out if we use a little bit of our experience and understand what each side in parliament really is leading to.
How much of that is theatrics? You talk about the heated debate, and we see and we hear this in parliament. How much of it is genuine, and how much of it do you think sometimes is people acting up for the cameras and for the radio and for social media, and maybe even to get a sound bite that gets them onto the evening news, for example?
There's some could be that, but you cannot do that all the time because you'll get caught. I mean, if you do it once, it's okay. I mean, and everyone will understand probably, and they will know what you're up to, but they will let you do it. But I think that most of the politicians have the party's own television station, radio station. They have their own media. They have their own Facebook. They have their own. So, okay, you can catch the attention of everybody because you're in parliament. But I don't think that any member of parliament would want to wait for his turn to talk in parliament to make the news. So it's probably more because it was the right time to say the right things and you said them well that you get the media's attention. In parliament, I think most of the politicians try to elevate themselves from that and give speeches, which I think they are well prepared, and a few members of parliament come to parliament not prepared.
Have you ever, in any of those situations, have you ever had to diffuse a situation or assert your authority in a way that has surprised the House?
Yes, I did.
People have raised their eyebrows and surprised perhaps even you.
Yes, I did, and I suspended the House. We know, near the speaker, there's the hammer, which is there. It's there to be part of the ornaments of the House. But one day I had two members of parliament shouting at each other, shouting. I tried to stop them once. I tried to stop them twice. They didn't. I just took the hammer, suspended the House for a number of, I think it was more than 30 minutes. And then I called in both whips, and I told them, listen, I will not accept this behavior in parliament. The first member of parliament who will in any way be close to that, I will not suspend the House, but I will suspend the member of parliament. And that was at the beginning of my days as a deputy speaker. So I think it helped for the next sessions. But I think that in the majority of time, with a look, I think people do understand, or I stop the person from the member of parliament who was speaking, and I just say, honourable member of parliament, please respect that you're in the House.
What have you learned about your own style and your own strengths and blind spots in this role? Because it's a position of immense power.
Yes, and I understood that what I used to do when I was a member of parliament, and I used to be naughty myself. So I now understand what the speaker used to look at me and tell me, Honourable Agius, please, and then I stop. But now I realize how when you're on that chair and you have all the House in front of you, it's different than being a member of parliament sitting in your chair. So yes, I've learned that you need to respect the position you are in, even though sometimes you are so angry at what the other side of the House is saying. Because sometimes certain arguments or certain accusations are thrown at the other side, not one side or another, but both. And sometimes you feel you want to react. And it's very difficult to restrain yourself from being angry about what the other side is saying.
How do you do that? How do you maintain impartiality when clearly you have your own political ideology? And in an argument, in a debate in the House, how do you hold yourself back?
Yes, I change. It's like changing hats. And I really managed to do it. I think when I took that decision one day that I will not tolerate any nuisance in the House. And now I understand more that when you're in that seat, that is the speaker's seat, and it's not an opposition, not government. And yes, when you read the standing orders, you know the rules, you've been in parliament, you know, you have a little bit of an experience of what's probably going to happen. And you are on that seat and you manage to get the respect of both sides of the House. You are a different person than a member of parliament sitting near your leader while the leader is giving a speech in parliament. And I think that the members of parliament, my friends from both sides of the House, do realize that. And they do tell me, you change, David, when you're on that seat and when you're near your leader. And I do feel it. I actually, when I'm on the chair as a deputy speaker and I have to take decisions, I take them in the benefit of the House, not as an opposition or the government. And it helped to get respect from both sides of the House when I had to give and say things that were for the benefit of the government because they were right, I did so. And when the opposition were right, I did so too. I gave rulings myself. And when you give a ruling, it's yourself who's going to decide. You have the clerk of the House. Yes, you can consult, but actually you are going to decide that. And I think that both sides of the House, by time, understood that when I'm in the chair, David Agius is the impartial deputy speaker representing the House of Representatives as a speaker.
You mentioned that some of your colleagues had told you, or you changed.
Yes.
Which obviously is, that's an inevitability, I think. How have they changed in terms of how they deal with you, and has their behavior changed now that you're in that neutral role versus when you were one of them?
Yes. When they know that when they see me as a speaker, they don't treat me as a friend because they know that I'm not their friend at that moment. I am their speaker. And that is something which I appreciate because they don't take me for granted or say, okay, David, let us do what we want or we are now. And no, not at all. If he has the right to do something, obviously, that's his right. And I will do everything possible within the standing orders to see that every member of parliament is given the opportunity to speak and not to be interrupted and all that. But if he doesn't have a right, even if he's from opposition, he has to abide by the rules.
Have you ever found yourself in a position where you've had to really chastise a close personal friend in the House that has then impacted your relationship outside?
I have done that, but it did not jeopardize or in any way affect our relationship. On the contrary, the other person told me, I didn't expect it from you, but you did the right thing, David. I was wrong. You were right. You were on the chair, and I shouldn't do it, and I won't do it with respect for you. And today, some members of parliament act differently when I am chair and when the speaker is in the chair. And sometimes that I don't like, because I think that every member of parliament have to respect the speaker, whoever the speaker is. And there are rules. They have to be obeyed. You have to know that the speaker is there because he has a number of rules. Unlike a football referee, if it's a handsball inside the penalty area, it's a penalty. And if you have the right to speak, you speak. If you don't, you have to abide by the rules. I am now today, even though I'm not that old, I am one of the oldest in parliament as regards to the opposition side. So I tend to be like the father figure for parliamentary affairs because I've been a member of parliament, a normal member of parliament. I've been a committee chair. Then I've been also the whip of the government, the whip of the opposition, deputy leader of the party for parliamentary affairs, and now deputy speaker. So most of my colleagues know that I've passed through a number of experiences in life in parliament. So they tend to come to me, ask me, how should we do this? We have this problem. What should we do? So yes, that gives me like a fodder, if you can say.
What do you think destroys trust most quickly in parliament?
It's when the gentleman's agreement is lost. For example, the whips lose respect with each other. They won't work together. So if you lose respect, if you lose the gentleman's agreement, you lose everything. It only happened to me once. We had just one seat majority, and I was the whip of the government. And obviously, having one seat majority, you need to plan when you're going to have your votes. I always used to speak with the whip of the opposition and ask him if he's going to ask for a vote, ask for a division. And we always had gentleman's agreement, and it all except once when the parliament used to finish at 9 o'clock in the evening. Mobiles were not really that common, and communication was not that common. There had some people do had mobiles. So 9 o'clock, 2 minutes before 9 o'clock, I saw the whip of the opposition coming in. It was just myself and the leader of the house, another speaker from the government, from the opposition. He was speaking. The whip came in and he asked for a division. He asked for a vote, which was not planned. And everyone was home. So we had to stand up and argue. In the meantime, start calling members to come in. And in the meantime, I was seeing all the members of the opposition coming in because they were in Valletta around, and they were planning all this before. We didn't even think that this was ever going to happen. All the members of opposition were there. We were getting, as a government with one seat majority, remember that the people, our members of parliament and ministers coming in, everyone talking to each other. Then I asked for a ruling to the speaker. I asked him to rule about the situation, and that day we had the leader of the house, Dr. Tonio Borch, continued to ask for the ruling, and Mr. Speaker said, okay, I'm going in and in my room so that I will write the ruling and I'll come back. That gave us a breathing space of about 15-20 minutes till that person from St. Paul's Bay, that minister from there, everyone came back to Parliament within a record time of about 25 minutes. The speaker came in and he told us, no, the opposition have the right for the vote. And we took the vote and we managed to win it just by one vote because we had just one seat majority. But that was the only time when I thought we were going to lose the vote in Parliament. Well, but we managed. And that gave me, taught me a lesson that yes, you will feel and believe that there is an agreement, a gentleman's agreement all the time, but you always, like the Scouts, have to be prepared.
You have spent a number of years in Parliament as an MP. You've been on the government side, you've been on opposition, and now as Deputy Speaker. You've had a very unique, perhaps, and rare opportunity to see power up close and personal.
Yeah.
Do you think power changes people, or does it reveal the real person behind?
I think it really depends on the particular person himself. I do know people from both sides of the house who they were before and after the same person. Even when you see them not in Parliament but outside Parliament, even the way of life, no change at all. But others did change. Some for the worst, some for the better.
As a country, and I mean, it seems to me, it strikes me that Malta, it's almost like everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
How does that scrutiny and that level of accessibility to politicians, how does that impact and change leadership and political leadership?
When you are just a member of Parliament with no ministerial portfolio, so you depend on others to help people, people will understand that. But if you're a minister, people will meet you in the piazza of your village or during a football match, and they will ask you to help them in particular instances. When we are accessible, our ministers are much, much more accessible than ministers in other countries. If you go to church on Sunday or during the week, I'm sure that someone will understand that you're praying, but after the church, they will tell you, can I tell you something? And if you are a minister, then they do ask favors. They still do ask favors.
On balance, which do you think is better both for the politicians and for the people?
If I look at it from the national point of view, it's not good at all. Because you are not doing national politics, but you are doing like local politics. If you are a minister, you're there for the nation. But you are a minister, I am a deputy speaker. At the same time, come next election, I will be on the same ballot sheet as the member of parliament, as the new candidate. And I would need every vote, and the minister needs every vote, like the candidate or like the new candidate or like the member of parliament. So on one hand, you have to balance the management of a ministry, but on the other hand, you have to manage the constituency. If you are a full-time minister, that's your full-time job as a minister. But you need to take care of your constituents, because if you don't take care of your constituents, you won't get votes and you won't be elected for the next term.
Just coming back to your role as Deputy Speaker and all of the authority and all of the power that comes with that, how do you switch off from that when you leave the house?
I think that the building itself and the house itself, the chamber itself, when I go inside the chamber, the moment I open the door and the moment I walk just 2 steps and sit on the seat as a speaker, that is the moment where I understand that I am the speaker. And the moment that I close the session, I say goodnight to each and everyone, and off we go down the 2 steps and outside the chamber. Then I feel relaxed and I'm back, David, as a member of parliament.
If you were to leave your position tomorrow and you weren't an MP or deputy speaker or anything to do with parliament, what would you miss most? And what would you be most delighted to never have to experience again?
I miss the constant contact with my constituents, which is my family today. Because let's take Qatar, where I live. Instead of having voters, I have friends. And today, as a member of parliament, you can help. Even an old lady who wants to check about her pension. Probably I will miss that because I don't know how much I can do that. I also miss being a deputy speaker. I would miss being a deputy speaker because it's one of the highest as speaker as well. For me, it's like a family. It's not work. It's something I love doing. So constituency and being a deputy speaker is things that I would miss.
You mentioned earlier on that there are a huge number of much younger politicians in the House. What advice would you give or what guidance would you give to anybody of any age who is considering or thinking about entering into politics today?
One thing I always kept in mind is that politics and parliament is not something which my family would depend on. Backbenchers and members of parliament are all part-timers in Malta. So you have to think and you have to keep in mind that you could be a backbencher forever if the prime minister does not choose you to be a minister. So first is see that your family income as your full-time job, first that is secured. Then go into politics. And if you go into politics, don't ever think you're going to get rich. If you want to get rich, don't get into politics. Because if you want to get rich in politics, you will have problems. One way or the other, people will get to know corruption, this or that. So first take care of your family with your job. Then go to politics, but not to make money, but to be of service to people. If you want to make money, go to business. And if you don't like talking to people, going to people's houses, being stopped by everyone in the street, don't be a politician. Don't. So if you love talking to people, love being with people, love helping people, being of service with people, and you don't make money, you don't want to make money, then be a politician. And you'll be successful because your brains, your mind is, how am I going to help that person? Not how I'm going to make money out of that person. And I think that's what kept me going.
So just before we wrap up, a few rapid fire questions for you. Early bird or late night?
Late night.
Authority or influence?
I think influence. Influence because you can change things when you influence people who, because you have the authority, you can change one thing or two things. But if you influence If you have you're good in influencing others, you can change much more.
Okay. Head or heart?
Heart.
Loyalty or competence?
Loyalty. I think when you are loyal, you're honest, and people will respect you for that. I always told people, even my leaders in the party and my good friends, not what they wanted to hear, but what I feel I should tell them. And sometimes I told them things that they didn't like me telling them. But afterwards, there's some weeks or months, when they come back to tell me, you were right over there, I feel that if I'm loyal, if I'm honest, I can actually look at the people, look it in his eyes and tell him what I really feel, and then go home and sleep the night through.
What has been the most unexpected skill that you've had to draw upon in your career?
I think patience. Because I am an extrovert, and I usually, what you see is what you get, immediately. But when you're a speaker, you need to calm. You have your rules. You have the standing orders. You have to listen what they're saying, understand. Think, no hurry. You have all the time in the world. Not to be impulsive. Right? Because I used to be impulsive. If you say something, I immediately react in an honest way, what I feel immediately. But as a speaker, I felt that has to be diminished a lot. And I have rules. I have to follow them. I have to understand what they say. I have to understand what the rulings of past speakers said about the situation. So don't hurry. Take your time as a speaker. You don't need to give an answer immediately. Either you stop the session and go have a ruling, or tell them I'll give you an answer the next day, which you can do that, obviously, or tell everyone to calm down till you consult the clerk of the house, get the right article, understand it well, and move on.
David Agius, MP, Deputy Speaker of the Parliament in Malta, thank you so very much indeed.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Remember to like and subscribe to the Power in Excellence podcast, and please share it with your friends and colleagues.